This UEFA Euro 2024 programme is sponsored by Alipay Plus and Booking.com.
Coming up, Boris Johnson comes to the aid of his party and a changing of the British Guard at Wimbledon.
Back pain can have many causes, and medicines containing ibuprofen are recommended as they relieve pain and inflammation. Flare-In helps stop pain, relieves swelling and eases stiffness.
Flare-In. It's brilliant and has really helped my back pain.
Flare-In, joint and muscular pain relief.
Vitality gets your health moving forward. And this is how it's done. They help you get healthier. And they get you back in the game. It's called moving forward. And forward feels good. Vitality, health and life insurance.
Look at you, an absolute legend. Not you, Frank. You use QuickBooks to send invoices and manage expenses, saving you up to 8 hours a week.
Yeah, I like that.
So you can help keep your finances shock-free. That's how you business different. Intuit QuickBooks.
Can they get this all in?
It's hard to see the screen in the pub. Stay in with 2 pizzas and 4 beers. Now £5 for members at Co-op.
Fed up of germy cages in your toilet? Introducing the new Harpic Hygienic and Fresh stickers. No germy cage and no plastic applicator. Flush, press, count to 3 and it's done. Is it magic? No, it's Harpic. Get a fragrance boost with every flush. New Harpic Hygienic and Fresh stickers.
Now with a look at all the latest stories making headlines this evening with the ITV News at 10.
Is this the last Conservative roll of the dice?
Thank you very much.
Absent from the campaign trail until almost the final hour, the former PM joined a London rally to warm up the crowd for his beleaguered successor.
I was glad when Rishi asked me to help. Of course I couldn't say no. And I'm here for one reason and one reason only, which is the same reason as all of you, all of us are here. We're here because we love our country.
For Johnson devotees, it may have been the tonic they were looking for. For others, it may have served as a reminder of all they want to leave behind. Robert will give us his take, also tonight. The beginning of the end for Biden. The first Democrat in Congress calls on the president to pull out of the race. Another family devastated. Serial killer Lucy Letby guilty of a 7th attempted murder of a baby after a retrial.
These were the actions of a cold-blooded, calculated killer. Our thoughts remain with the family of baby Kay and the countless others affected by Letby's crimes.
The toughest call. Wimbledon's hero says he can't play singles but will take to the doubles court with his brother and.
It's such a simple fix. You know, we're not talking about a new space programme. We're talking about reading some books.
The new Children Laureate plan to improve all children's lives.
This is ITV News at 10 with Julie Etchingham.
Good evening. He left it late, very late, with only 1 day's campaigning left. In the past hour, Boris Johnson finally came to the aid of his party at a Conservative election rally in London. He told chanting supporters that if they were surprised to see him, whatever the differences in the party, they were trivial compared to the disaster he believed the country is facing if the polls are right. Mr Sunak followed him onto the platform at the end of a very long day for him, which began at 4 a.m, as the PM pointed out. He'd had 3 breakfasts before 10 this morning. Later, the Conservatives decided the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer's work-life balance was a legitimate area for attack. Clocking off at 6 on a Friday evening to spend time with his family would amount to being a part-time Prime Minister, they said.
After weeks of campaigning, with less than 36 hours left before the polls open, guess who finally showed up?
Good evening, good evening. Thank you very much.
Although he barely mentioned Rishi Sunak by name.
If you feel you've got a few thousand to spare, then vote Labour on Thursday. If you want uncontrolled immigration and mandatory wokery and pointless kowtowing to Brussels again, then go right ahead, make my day, vote for Starmer. But if you want to protect our democracy and our economy, then you know what to do, don't you, everybody? Yeah. There's only one thing to do. Vote Conservative.
It was just enough for the Prime Minister to make this claim.
Isn't it great to have our Conservative family united, my friends? Yeah.
At 5 o'clock this morning, the Prime Minister was already visiting a distribution centre. He's made his work ethic a feature of his campaign.
I've been out with our candidates every day, and that's why I'm fighting hard for every vote. And I was up at 4 this morning talking to workers because we've got days left to make the case to the British people that Thursday's vote really matters for them.
But the Conservatives also accused Keir Starmer of wanting to be a part-time Prime Minister after the Labour leader said he would carve out time for his family from 6 o'clock on Friday evenings.
I wonder if I could have your response to Conservative claims that spending time with your family on a Friday evening would make you a part-time Prime Minister.
I actually can hardly believe that 48 hours before an election, the Conservative Party has got nothing possible positive to say. My family is really important to me, as they will be to every single person watching this. And I just think it's increasing desperation, bordering on hysterical now.
Keir Starmer's wife, Victoria, is Jewish. They use Friday evenings for family prayers as well as time together. The government's anti-Semitism czar, who is also a Labour peer, says this was an insidious line of attack from the Tories.
They know that is the custom across the Jewish community, whether people are religious or not. That's what people do. And they regard it as a good thing. They've deliberately attacked on that, knowing that. That's what's so dangerous.
And Keir Starmer said he agreed with Lord Mann during this campaign stop at a drinks factory in Derbyshire.
With less than 48 hours to go, Keir Starmer is only campaigning in constituencies with sizable Conservative majorities that would once have been considered safe Tory seats.
For both of the main parties, the job now is to get their voters out to determine whether it is Rishi Sunak or Keir Starmer, who is busy in Downing Street at 6 p.m. this Friday. Carl Denning, News at 10, Staffordshire.
Well, Robert is here to talk about this appearance of Boris Johnson on the campaign trail, literally at the last minute. What do you make of it, Robert? I mean, for many, it will be seen as a boost, but there are risks.
Well, it certainly G'd up the activists we saw at that rally tonight. But, you know, for millions of British voters, and polls show this, Boris Johnson is toxic, and for many voters it brings back aspects of this government which they hate, and in particular the lies that Parliament said ruled that he told over those parties in Downing Street, which for many British people still feel like an insult. Now, there's no question that Boris Johnson is one of the most adept political campaigners that this country has seen for many years. And maybe if he'd engaged in the campaign slightly earlier, it might have had an effect on narrowing the polls. Tonight, quite a lot of what he said felt a bit weird to me. I mean, he was basically sort of saying, well, it's completely bemusing that people don't want to vote for the Tory party. And he was almost saying that, people who were thinking of voting for Labour or the Lib Dems or indeed Reform were somehow stupid. That it was, he was sort of saying it's blindingly obvious the Tories are better than anybody else. So why would anybody in their right minds, decide not to vote for us again? I don't know how that will resonate when those sort of disenchanted former Tory voters actually ponder what he actually said to them, and it comes off the back of a couple of new polls. One of them from Survation sees the Tory party, and this is a respectable polling organisation, with as few as 60 seats. I think that would be an astonishing shock. It's only one poll. But, you know, he's come into this fray with a day to go of just literally one more day of sort of proper campaigning, and at a time when every poll shows a sizable Labour majority. So if he was going to do it, people will ask, is this more about his ego, or does he really think he's helping?
OK, Robert, thank you very much indeed for that. Well, elsewhere on the campaign trail today, Reform UK was branded racist, misogynistic and bigoted by one of the party's own candidates before she became the second to abandon her campaign and endorse her local Conservative candidate. Georgie David had been standing in the West Ham and Beckton constituency in London. She said the party's leadership was not racist, but it had failed to tackle the issue. In his campaigning today, Nigel Farage told us the party needs to get MPs elected this week for his project to reshape the right of British politics to succeed. The stunt of the day for Sir Ed Davey, the Lib Dem leader, involved surf lessons in Cornwall. His message to West Country voters was to elect a local champion who would, unlike he managed to stand on his board, stand up and tackle the sewage scandal and the cost of living crisis. And the SNP leader John Swinney enjoyed a sip of Speyside whisky on a visit to a distillery, but was left with a nasty taste in his mouth by the PM's decision to hold the election after the start of Scotland's school holidays. Mr Swinney said many Scots were not able to vote because their postal votes had not reached them before they went away. And for the best guess and analysis of the election on Thursday night, election night, ITV1 or ITVX is the place to be. Here with Tom and Anushka.
When the voting's over and the exit poll is revealed, our unrivaled team of experts, including Nicola Sturgeon, George Osborne and Ed Balls, will break down what it means for you, the parties and the country.
And throughout the night, as results come in, we'll be going deep into the data to understand not just who's going to hold power, but how the new mix of MPs will shape the way the UK is run.
It could be one heck of a night. So please do join us for Election 2024, the results, live.
To the American election now, and the whispering in President Biden's own party that grew louder after his disastrous debate performance last Thursday became public tonight. A Democratic congressman became the first elected Democrat to say the president wasn't up to being the party's candidate for the vote in November. Mr Biden had tried to seize the initiative, organising a meeting tomorrow with Democratic governors to try to shore up his position.
President Biden was doing his best to look sprightly today. But as he visited an emergency response centre, the crisis engulfing his campaign showed no sign of easing. His press secretary,
hi everybody,
still batting away difficult questions about last week's disastrous debate performance.
We're not taking away from what you all saw, or what the American people saw. We understand it was a bad night. It is not uncommon for incumbents to have a bad night on their first debate.
Excuse me, but his critics say this wasn't just a bad night.
Look,
it was a presidential TV car crash.
President Trump? I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
And the cracks are beginning to appear in Democratic Party unity. Today, a congressman from Texas became the first sitting Democrat to say Joe Biden should stand aside. Lloyd Doggett said, recognizing that, unlike Trump, President Biden's first commitment has always been to our country, not himself, I am hopeful he will make the painful and difficult decision to withdraw. I respectfully call on him to do so.
The mood is terrible. People are very, very nervous.
Matt Bennett was a Democratic Party insider for years and is frank about the panic.
The polls are starting to come in, and they're not good. There was a distinct drop, at least 2 points in most of the swing states. And I'm sure that the vulnerable House Democrats, both incumbents and people running in swing districts, are seeing numbers of their own. And if it is hurting them badly, then self-preservation will require that they come out and say something about it. So I do think we're going to see more of this.
The Democratic Party hand-wringing comes after the Supreme Court's 6 Conservative justices, including 3 appointed by Donald Trump, declared presidents are immune from prosecution while carrying out official acts. It's thrown some of the criminal cases against Donald Trump into doubt, delaying next week's sentencing for the Stormy Daniels hush money case until September. President Biden was immediately critical of the Supreme Court ruling, warning it increases the risk of what could happen in a Trump second term.
And it's a dangerous precedent, because the power of the office will no longer be constrained by the law, even including the Supreme Court of the United States. The only limits will be self-imposed by the president alone.
This Supreme Court ruling not only hands Donald Trump more ammunition to fight his criminal cases, but it also potentially hands him more power if he were to win a second term. Neither outcome is good news for the Democratic Party, which is still reeling from Joe Biden's disastrous performance in the debate in Atlanta. But tonight there is no sign Joe Biden is listening to the mood music inside the party. The message from the White House is simple. He believes he is the best person to beat Donald Trump.
And Dan joins us from Washington now. I mean, he may not be wanting to listen to that mood music, but will it get louder? How serious is this for the president, do you think?
I think it is serious, Julie. I mean, there is this, what I suppose you could call is an emergency meeting of Democratic governors tomorrow, who are going, some of them, in person to the White House. They had been scheduled a meeting with Kamala Harris, the Vice President. Now they've got time with Joe Biden himself. He'll obviously have to reassure them in that. But it's notable that there have been no unscripted appearances since Atlanta. Every time we've seen him, it's been on an auto cue. He's doing a big sit-down interview with ABC on Friday. He's bound to face tough questions there. But, the message from the White House is the show goes on. Joe Biden, they say, will be out campaigning in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania as well. But I think that the real yardstick for this is how many other senior Democrats come out and say enough is enough. It's time for him to stand down.
OK, Dan, thank you very much indeed. Children's nurse Lucy Letby was already notorious as Britain's most prolific baby killer, put away for the rest of her life last August. Today, another conviction was added to the long list of crimes of which nurse Letby has been found guilty, in addition to murdering 7 babies. Jurors at her retrial convicted her today of another attempted baby murder. The little girl, known only as Baby K, was born at 25 weeks and weighed 1.5 pounds.
Hello, Lucy, is it? Yeah. Hello, my name's Chester Police. Located Stefan, 2 seconds.
A nurse should be a caring, safe pair of hands. But when left alone with a baby girl born 15 weeks early here at the Countess of Chester neonatal unit, Lucy Letby tried to kill her by dislodging her breathing tube. This was a retrial, the second time Baby K's family have gone through this. The police spoke on their behalf.
To lose a baby and then learn of the harm that was inflicted under these circumstances is unimaginable. We are heartbroken, devastated, angry and feel numb.
This should have been the alarm when Baby K, weighing less than 2 pounds and less than 2 hours old, was struggling. But when a consultant walked in the room, there was no sound and there was no sign of Letby doing anything to help.
That is a night that is etched on my memory and will be in my nightmares forever.
Dr. Ravi Jairam, a key witness, told ITV News following the last trial that he'll never forget what he saw that night.
Ordinarily, number one, the alarms would have been going off. But number two, the nurse would have called for help. And Lucy Letby was standing by the top of the incubator. She didn't have her hands in the incubator.
What was she doing then?
Well, she was just standing there. Now, tubes become dislodged. But this was a 25-week gestation baby who wasn't kicking around, who wasn't vigorous. The only possibility was that that tube had to have been dislodged deliberately.
They told me that there would be a lot more deaths and that I'd been linked to somebody that was there for a lot of them.
Speaking softly and calmly when questioned by police, Letby always maintained her innocence. The prosecution said Letby was caught virtually red-handed trying to murder the baby.
Letby dislodged the tube a further 2 times over the following few hours in an attempt to cover her tracks and suggests that the first dislodgement was accidental. These were the actions of a cold-blooded, calculated killer.
Letby was taken back to prison after today's guilty verdict, where she's already serving a whole life term. Kelly Foran, News at 10.
A stampede at a religious gathering in northern India has left more than 100 worshippers dead. It isn't clear what caused the panic among crowds listening to a Hindu guru. Local reports said it could have been heat and suffocation in the marquee in which the event was taking place. Most of the dead were women and children. It happened in the state of Uttar Pradesh. Tonight it's the turn of Jamaica to brace itself for the onslaught of Hurricane Beryl. Its 2 main airports have closed already. The hurricane reached Category 5 earlier in the day before dropping back to Category 4 with winds of 165 miles an hour. It has been powering through the Caribbean from east to west, leaving destruction in its wake.
Even by hurricane standards, Beryl is a brute. This was Carayacu, an island of Grenada, when the hurricane was a Category 4. It's now been upgraded to Category 5. 160-mile-an-hour winds and savage storm surges have left swathes of the Caribbean flattened and flooded.
This is actually the strongest storm that we've had in my lifetime.
So many people have lost their boats. There's nothing more we can do but stand and watch total destruction. Our livelihood going down the drain.
To see storms on this scale is rare. In July, it's almost unheard of. If we look at every recorded Category 5 hurricane since records began, broken down month by month, we can see September is the peak season because that's when the ocean is at its warmest. Beryl, declared on the 2nd of July, is 2 weeks earlier than the previous earliest, which was set in 2005. And here is a key reason why. This line here shows the average surface temperatures in the tropical area of the Atlantic, whereas the red line shows this year. You can see it is already nearly as warm now as usual in the September peak.
Our ocean temperatures are increasing due to climate change, which is providing the fuel and the energy to really intensify hurricanes.
Beryl is now tracking towards Jamaica, where forecasters warn a foot of rain could see more flash flooding like this.
I am encouraging all Jamaicans to take the hurricane as a serious threat.
She's already claimed at least 2 lives. The destruction isn't over yet. Martin Stew, News at 10.
One police force, Nottinghamshire, is already under investigation for how it handled the murder of 2 students and a caretaker in Nottingham in June last year. Now officers from another, Leicestershire, are also being questioned about the lead-up to the knife attacks by Valdo Calocane. A month before the Nottingham attacks, Calocane was interviewed by 2 constables and a sergeant about alleged assaults on 2 colleagues at an industrial estate. Now, the election campaign is just about over, and in the eyes of the country's children's charities, it has been a missed opportunity. They say they are deeply disappointed with all the political parties for failing to set out how to reduce child poverty or make it a campaign priority. The latest government figures show 4.3 million UK children, about 1 in 3, were in relative poverty last year.
In just the past years, it's just getting worse and worse and worse with no change.
The cost of living, the cost of gas and electricity, even just washing children's clothes.
Schools are stepping in like never before to help pupils and their parents. The support goes well beyond the classroom.
See, that just goes so far.
On the playground of this school in Middlesbrough, parents run a discounted food shop.
Thank you. Porridge, little man.
72% of students here are on free school meals. That's almost 3 times the national average. When Josh became a single dad of 2, the school helped him to apply for universal credit, as well as providing food and clothing.
Because I had to skip meals sometimes, so because I didn't want to.
Charities have been Blistering in their criticism of all parties. They say politicians have failed to offer meaningful plans to help the more than 4 million children living in poverty. Tia is a working single mum of 3, but child benefit is restricted to her first 2 children. That means losing out on £250 a month for baby Isaac. She's being supported by this London charity.
I'm literally just spending every penny I can on my children to help them grow up. So it really hurts me when people make comments that are based on a sort of archaic stereotype of this sort of benefit scrounger who just wants to, you know, have as many children as they can to get as many benefits as they can. Like, that is not what's happening here.
Scrapping the 2-child benefit limit doesn't appear in either the Tory or Labour manifestos. Keir Starmer said he couldn't commit to ending the policy due to tough financial decisions. Back in Middlesbrough, this school is devoting more resources towards families in crisis. Do you think it's right that all of this is falling to schools?
We are put in some very difficult situations. However, if we don't do it, who will? Equally, we only have one pot of money and something has to give.
Those on the lowest income say they all too often feel invisible to politicians. Sarah Corker, News at 10.
And if you want more on all the party's main policies, from education to immigration, we have a special section on our website. You can find it all at itv.com/news. Now, Sir Andy Murray's last Wimbledon won't be ending in quite the way he would have wanted. He just couldn't recover from his back operation in time for his singles match today. He still has the doubles with his brother Jamie. And there was something of a changing of the guard tonight. The new kid on the block, Jack Draper, filled the fixture Sir Andy had vacated and kept the flag flying.
Sir Andy Murray is still determined to have his day at Wimbledon, practising earlier with his brother Jamie ahead of what will be their first doubles pairing at the Championships. But fans are sad to see him give up on his singles dream.
Obviously hugely upsetting, amazing career. It's nice that he still gets to play the doubles with Jamie.
It's super sad. We really wanted to see him play, but today wasn't the day.
Legends of the game, not going to be at Wimbledon anymore. It's just really sad to see, isn't it?
He'd left the difficult decision to pull out to the last possible moment, making the announcement as crowds arrived this morning. For almost 2 decades, he's thrilled fans with the Murray magic, battling through countless injuries and becoming the first British men's singles champion at Wimbledon in 77 years in 2013. But he plans to retire after this summer's Paris Olympics.
I think Andy Murray's legacy is somebody who was an unbelievable warrior and competitor out there on the court, one of the greatest competitors that the game has ever seen. But also, I think his legacy in terms of all the British players coming through.
And she does it! On court today, there was success for some of those Brits, including women's national number 1, Katie Boulter, and Cameron Norrie, with a straight sets win after a recent slump in form. As Andy Murray's singles career draws to a close, the next generation of British stars are waiting in the wings, with 22-year-old Jack Draper being hailed as Britain's biggest hope for Wimbledon this year. Tonight on centre court, in the slot Murray had been scheduled to play, Draper delivered his own brand of Jack magic, but not before falling out with his racket. He won an edge-of-the-seat 5-set thriller against Elias Ymer and paid tribute to Sir Andy.
I wouldn't be here without Andy. He's an incredible guy off the court, so funny, so genuine, one of a kind, and just, you know, what a competitor, what a champion, and thank you very much.
But tonight, Wimbledon may have seen the man set to take over the Murray mantle. Martha Fairley, News at 10, Wimbledon.
Quite a mantle it is. And finally, a new champion of the power of books to improve young lives. Prolific author and screenwriter to the late Queen, no less, Frank Cottrell Boyce has been made the new Children's Laureate. It was both fantastically exciting and intimidating, he said. His mission will be getting more people to read to children and getting more children access to books so they can learn the joy of stories.
Annie, quick, wake up. Come and see, there's a light.
Wow, says Terry, you're getting much better at maths, Andy.
Through fantasy and fascination, stories show children how to be happy. That is the firm belief of the new Children's Laureate, an author who wants to give a voice to the disadvantaged.
Half of our children are not read to as children, and you know that is a massive disadvantage, and it's such a simple fix. You know, we're not talking about a new space programme, we're talking about reading some books.
The award-winning screenwriter recalls the moment his love of fiction turned to writing.
In year 6 I had a really good friend who was off sick, and for I know not what reason I put all the attention I used to give to him into a piece of work, and I can still remember the teacher picking up the work and looking at it and going, and just being like really surprised that I'd written it. And she went to the front of the class and she read it out loud, and that was amazing. You know, that was hearing a grown-up read my words out. That made me think, oh, words are something you could be good at.
And that writing led him here.
You would like a marmalade sandwich? I always keep one for emergencies.
I keep mine in here.
So I've heard Paddington read my words out, I've heard the Queen read my words out. Nothing came close to hearing Sister Paul read my words out in year 6. And everyone who cares for a child has got that power.
Let's have a lazy afternoon for once, said George.
Reading takes me to a different world. You could be anything you want to be.
I feel like I've just been transported into somewhere I've never been before. If you can read, you can practically do anything else.
It just brings joy. Yeah, joy.
Cottrell Boyce promises to put happiness at the heart of his tenure. He'll also use it to bring equality and fairness, however challenging that may be.
Is it getting harder to attract children to books?
We're in danger of losing the ability to sit quietly and also to be bored. You know, boredom is important. Boredom is the compost of genius.
A thought he hopes can inspire all. Rachel Townsend, News at 10, Leeds.
Wonderful. We are big fans of Frank's books in our house. That is it for tonight. Till tomorrow from everyone here. Thanks for staying up.